Gwigwe, Wajia, bonjour, good noon. Uh, we are welcome to Rue Adadegen. Actually, it's not exactly the Rue Adadegen. We are on Rue Balmoral near the Place des Festivals in the NFB space. We will be there for the week, so please listen each day now. It's not only the Wednesday, each day we will have podcasts with fantastic artists, cultural leaders from all over Mother Earth that will come to present their work, speak about their arts, their communities, their culture, their traditions. So let's stay in touch and let's begin with
Brian Francis.
Brian Francis. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So Brian is a Mi'kmaq artist, and I will ask him to make his own presentation because I am a lazy boy.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me here and being the, I guess, the Mi'kmaq representative of the festival. And I'm here with my film called Kumanegati, which means translates to Blueberry Land. And it's a film that I've been wanting to make for a long time, but it became a victim of the pandemic. So I was supposed to film it prior to the pandemic, and then we couldn't go. The following year, again, there couldn't cross the border because the setting is in Maine, which is about 5 hours from where we live in Ozebuktu, New Brunswick. And then the third year, I had finally had a chance, and but it was getting late, and all the people that take part in the harvest were not there. They didn't cross, and they weren't sure if they were going to have the blueberry
yes,
raking.
because the film is about the harvest of blueberry in Maine by the Mi'kmaq
Yes.
from your community.
Yes. So it was the last week of August, and there was the two guys that I was going to interview were still there. There was a little bit of raking still going on, so we were able to get some B-roll, and but we did the film. But there's a much broader story to the story or to the film. So, but we captured the essence, how the Mi'kmaq participate in the harvest, and how it's become a modern day tradition. It's been, since I can remember, my parents brought me to Maine to harvest, and so I grew up. Basically, I say I grew up in Maine because I spent all my summers in Maine every year. So the film is basically, I guess, a nostalgic revisit with two friends that still frequent, that they still go to Maine every year, and so it's basically our story, a community story.
Yes, but was interesting also in your film is I look at the Abenaki people here in Odanak. They go back to their this part of their traditional land in United States, the Maine. All what was called New England, right? That was the Wabanaki Confederation with many indigenous peoples there, and many have been brought to the northern part of the territories because of the war, and now it seems that some activities are like a coming back. It's like a long-term historic nostalgia of the land.
Yes, and the unique thing is that Maine is part of Wabanaki territory, so there's our people take advantage of they say it's dual citizenship, but it isn't really. It's because of our treaty rights that we were able to cross and work in Maine.
You don't need the blue card or the green card, no.
And a lot of people refuse. Sometimes The border people, the younger ones, they don't understand the historical context of us crossing the border, because when the treaties were signed, there was no border. So that was the basis of the J Treaty, I guess, that we would be able to cross the line unmolested. But Wabanaki territory includes like part of Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. So it's still within our traditional territory, and historically the boundaries that were set was set by languages. So when a new language, wherever that new language started, that was our boundary. So we're still, even though we're participating in a commercial harvest, we're actually practicing treaty rights. And as long as, I think, as long as we do that, as long as we use those rights, then we won't lose them.
Oh, interesting. I thought because there was a lot of event in around Akwesasne that the J Treaty was more specifically on this side of Canada, but it apply also for the eastern part.
Yes, and it's really it's a really important time of the year for our people, because really the community shuts down. It literally shuts down for the month of August, as we go from end of July to Labor Day, to a point where at one point the parish priest had to come to Maine and give a mass on the blueberry field, because there was nobody at home to give mass to. So he brought the church to the blueberry field, which was kind of interesting.
Yes, and blueberry wine as wine.
Yeah. Well, some people, I guess, make that, but yeah.
And how come you are an artist now?
What's that?
How come you have become an artist?
Well, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I guess I've always been a storyteller, and I was involved in music a long time ago, and in 2000.
And how did you were involved in music?
I was a manager of my brother's music group. It was called Eagle Feather, and they were pretty popular back then. And
we are speaking of the 90s?
90s, yeah, late 90s.
Okay.
We recorded an album and we promoted it, and we were one of the first Aboriginal groups to be nominated for a Juno Award.
Wow.
So we were sort of pioneers, I guess, in those days. And then
of course,
in 2000, APTN came online, and it was sort of like a natural progression for me to go from music producing to producing documentary television. And I've been doing documentaries ever since. I started painting about 5 years ago, and it's been incredible. Like, I've had exhibits all over the place, and even some of my artwork was projected on a parliamentary building in Melbourne, Australia.
Wow.
So that's been really good. I have 3 exhibits going on right now, and then I've also just released my second book. It's called The Sacred Space. It's available through the Acorn Press in Atlantic Canada. So my first book was self-published, so that's called Between Two Worlds, but that's still available. So it's I really do a little bit of everything, and it's trying to stay busy and trying to, I guess, share our story and use a lot of events and as a stage or a venue to bring awareness of our people to the rest of society.
What is the situation of the ancestral language now? Is it still passed through generations?
The state of our language is quite it's in danger of being lost, because you'd be hard pressed to find anybody under 30 years old that speaks the language fluently in our community. I'm actually one of the first official language Mi'kmaq interpreters in the House of Commons in Ottawa. But there's hardly any demand for that, because nobody hardly makes that request. but there needs to be a great emphasis and a great, I guess, effort to bring the language to another level, to make sure that we have language teachers, and I think language immersion is probably the only way we can save it.
Yeah.
So if we had language immersion schools where children from kindergarten to grade 4 or 5 would be immersed in the language, I think they would get a better grasp of the language. But because of modern technology, because of social media, a lot of our young people are just basically using English. And
Yeah.
that's how our language will be lost.
Yes, that's a concern everywhere in the indigenous communities in Canada. And it's so precious, the ancestral language, that is sad to see that how difficult it is now. But I think it's something we have to, a task we have to take.
Yeah.
And you are the one who need to start.
Yeah. Well, I'm one. But there's a few others. There's some teachers in Nova Scotia and PEI and Quebec that's taken up the challenge and really trying to incorporate even some of the modern technology. Creating apps and what have you in the language. And I think that's very important that we maintain that and keep working at it. We can't stop, because once we stop, it doesn't take much for us to lose that.
Yeah, you probably know my good friend Kathy Martin.
Oh yeah, I know Kathy very well. Yes.
We were together at the first years of APTN on the board.
Oh, okay.
And I remember at this time there was a debate if APTN should be like CNN News, an indigenous CNN, with journalists all over the place. And there was the other option that APTN would be the one who demand productions by indigenous companies all over. And there were not that much indigenous production companies in that time when APTN began, because the demand was not there. The main stream television were not wanting indigenous productions, and so there was no infrastructure. So the politic we chose that option, and the politic was the new companies created by indigenous persons all over the place would work for the first years with another established and most probably non-indigenous company, but a transfer of knowledge has to happen. And it worked. It worked now. There is a lot of indigenous companies like yours that are now.
And that's exactly what happened with me, because I had no experience in television production. I wrote a brief synopsis and I sent it in at that time, and I get a call from APTN that said, if you have 13 more of these, we'll take a look at having a Mi'kmaq series. So that's how I started. My first production was called Wabanagi, or Eastern Tide it was called, and it was an anthology series on the life and times of Mi'kmaq people, focusing on storytellers and elders and spiritual leaders and musicians and artists and that type of thing. So it was really it was a tremendous learning curve for me, and I did learn under a non-indigenous producer, and now I think I'm the only full-time indigenous producer east of Montreal.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
Great.
My company is called Bear Pod New Media Productions.
Okay. And now we know that the APTN have asked, and if you go on the CRTC, Commission de la Radio-Télévision Canadienne, on the internet, you can support their demand. They want another channel to have productions in Aboriginal languages only.
Yes.
So I think that would be a great opportunity.
It's very important.
Yeah. And so, and you will be ready to produce TV series in Mi'kmaq.
Yes, yeah, I will be. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready now.
Okay. So probably you are now the representative of the Mi'kmaq Nation here in this festival, but also we have an exhibit by Alan Silliboy also at the Guild, à la Guilde, and this is also a great artist from the Mi'kmaq Nation, and the exhibit is The Spirit of the Forest, is really something to see if you want to be in the good mood to see the movie on the blueberry field that the Mi'kmaq from New Brunswick are going each year to pick up the berries, but especially to keep this strong community links and the cultures and the history.
Yeah. Well, Alan Silliboy is an incredible artist. He's a good friend of ours. Me and my brother. My brother actually performs on his musical group. But as an artist, I think Alan is just probably one of the pioneers, and he's incredible. I think he could be a part of the group of 7. I think so. But his if you have a chance to go see his work, I think it's important, and I think it's quite unique and very powerful work that he does. And then my film is going to be on at 6:30 tonight, or 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock.
6, if I remember well, 6 or 6:30. Yeah. And the exhibition by Alan Silliboy is just in front of the Cinéma du Musée.
Yeah.
So this would be a good opportunity to go to the La Guilde to see the exhibition, after take a coffee, and then cross the street and goes to the cinema.
You can have a Mi'kmaq experience.
Exactly. So, Brian, I am sure it's not the last time you come to the festival.
It's a tremendous honor for me to be here. I've heard about it for so long, and I'm really honored to be part of it.
All the honor is for us. Thank you for being here in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, for this celebration of Indigenous cultures. So, everybody is welcome on Place des Festivals, on Cinéma du Musée, dans l'espace ONF, and in all other venues where the festival is taking place right now in Montreal. Let's keep in touch.
Merci beaucoup.